Welcome to our first lesson. What is cloud computing and why AWS? In this session, we'll build a clear picture of what the cloud really means, why it's such a big deal for businesses, and why Amazon Web Services is the most popular cloud platform today. This will be a high-level, non-technical overview, so don't worry if you're new. We'll go step by step. Before we start, please like the video and subscribe. It really helps us grow. Thank you, and let's start. Here's what we'll cover in this lesson. First, we'll define cloud computing in simple terms. Then, we'll look at its key characteristics, the different types of services, like infrastructure as a service, software as a service, and platform as a service, and why organizations are moving to the cloud. After that, we'll talk specifically about AWS and why it has become the leading cloud provider. Finally, I'll show you where this lesson fits in the bigger course. Before we define cloud computing, it's helpful to compare it to traditional IT. In a traditional on-premises model, a company buys and owns servers, networking, and storage. It's a big upfront investment, and you're responsible for everything: hardware, power, cooling, and maintenance. Scaling up can take weeks or months. With cloud computing, you don't own the physical infrastructure. Instead, you rent resources from a cloud provider, like AWS. You pay only for what you use, and the provider handles the physical data centers and hardware. Scaling can often be done in minutes. Cloud computing is basically the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet. Instead of buying servers and installing them in your own data center, you request resources from a cloud provider when you need them. You can get compute power, storage, databases, and more, all delivered over the internet. You only pay for what you use, and you can scale up or down very quickly. This flexibility is a major reason the cloud is so attractive. There are a few standard characteristics people use to define cloud computing. On-demand self-service means you can provision resources yourself, usually via a console or API, without talking to a human each time. Broad network access means you can access services over the internet from many types of devices. Resource pooling means the provider shares a large pool of resources among many customers, but with logical isolation. Rapid elasticity is the ability to quickly grow or shrink your resources, and measured service means your usage is tracked and you're billed based on what you actually use. Cloud services are often grouped into three main models. IaaS, or infrastructure as a service, gives you the building blocks: virtual servers, storage, and networks. You manage the operating system and applications. Platform as a service gives you a managed platform where you can deploy your code without worrying as much about the underlying infrastructure. Software as a service is fully managed software you just use via a browser or app. Think of email services or CRM systems. AWS offers services across all of these layers, but in this course, we'll focus a lot on infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. There are also different ways organizations can deploy cloud solutions. Public cloud is what we usually mean when we say the cloud. Providers like AWS deliver services over the internet to many customers. Private cloud is cloud-like infrastructure dedicated to one organization, often on-premises. Hybrid cloud combines on-premises infrastructure with one or more public clouds. Many companies use hybrid models as they migrate gradually to the cloud. AWS supports hybrid and multi-cloud setups, and we'll touch on those in later sections. Let's talk about the why. Cloud computing significantly reduces upfront capital expenses because you no longer have to buy physical servers. You pay only for what you use, so costs can scale with your business. You can launch resources in minutes, which accelerates innovation and time to market. Providers like AWS give you access to global infrastructure, so you can deploy applications close to your users around the world. You also get access to a wide range of security and compliance tools, so you can build secure systems more easily. Overall, this lets organizations focus on their core business, rather than running data centers. So why AWS specifically? AWS was one of the first major cloud providers and has grown to become the market leader. It offers a very broad set of services, everything from virtual servers and storage to databases, analytics, machine learning, and much more. AWS has a large global infrastructure, which we'll look at in the next lesson. There's also a huge ecosystem, many tools, partners, and a strong community. And finally, AWS invests heavily in security and compliance, which is critical for businesses of all sizes. AWS is used across many industries and by organizations of every size. Streaming video platforms, e-commerce sites, mobile apps, analytics systems. A lot of the services you use every day are running on AWS behind the scenes. Startups like to use AWS because they can start small and scale fast. Large enterprises and even governments use AWS because of its global reach, security, and reliability. This real-world adoption is one of the reasons learning AWS is so valuable. In this course, we're not just doing theory. We'll start with conceptual understanding, then create an AWS account using the free tier. We'll work hands-on with core services like EC2 for compute, VPC for networking, S3 for storage, and RDS or DynamoDB for databases. By the end, you'll see how these building blocks fit together in a simple, realistic architecture. Let's recap. Cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. It offers scalability, flexibility, and faster innovation compared to traditional on-premises setups. We saw the main service models: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. AWS is one of the leading cloud providers, offering a huge range of services and a global infrastructure. In the next lesson, we'll dive into AWS's global infrastructure, regions, availability zones, and edge locations. And then we'll move toward creating your first AWS account. Before we finish, I have a small favor to ask. If this lesson helped you understand cloud computing and AWS, please give this video a like. It really helps the channel grow. Also, make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss the next lessons in this AWS course. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What did you learn today? What AWS topics do you want me to cover next? Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now, and see you in the next lesson.